Hello humans of Orca Empire Fitness. It's Coach Sean here, and today I want to take you on a bodyweight training session focused on some really high quality strength patterns in combination with an isometric strength and plyometric conditioning finisher. So what we're going to be doing is a combination of some ladders first. First, we'll be going to take on each of these two movements in the pink. We're going to start with 10 repetitions of each and work our way down to 1 repetition of each. Now we're going to take Cossack squats for 10 on each side, followed by a slow tempoed push-up, 2 seconds on the descent, 2 seconds on the ascent for 10 repetitions. Then we'll do 9 Cossack squats on each side and 9 tempo push-ups, 8 of each, 7, all the way down until we complete 1 Cossack squat on the left and right and 1 repetition of the tempo push-up. Now in between Group A and Group B, shake it out, grab some water, give yourself some space. But when you dial back into Group B, be sure that you are arriving, and we're gonna put all of your focus into these next 2 exercises. Your tempo bear squat, sticking with the same theme of a slow on the way down, thinking 3 seconds on the descent, 3 seconds on the ascent, followed by a paused reverse lunge. Again, owning that strength position. A lot of strength comes in that stillness. So versus rushing through the repetition, locking into that lunge every single step and every single rep. The lunges will be on each side. So in this group, it would be 10 bear squats followed by 10 reverse lunges on the left and the right. 9 bear squats, 9 lunges on the left and right, all the way down until you complete just 1 of each. Now in part 2, we have 2 exercises paired in a group. One that's going to be a hold, and then something that's plyometric or moving. Each of them are going to be for 30 seconds, and once you start with a group, A, B, or C, you're gonna stick with that group until you complete it for 3 rounds. So I'm gonna start with group C. I'm gonna hold a 30-second bridge. It can be a glute bridge or a tabletop bridge, followed by a 30-second skater lunge, picking your variation. You go back, complete the bridges for 30 seconds, the skaters at 30 seconds, bridges for 30 seconds, skaters for 30 seconds, and complete your 3 rounds through. Then I'll move on to part B, holding a plank, followed by a 5-yard to the left shuffle, 5-yard to the right. So thinking a skater lunge, but now moving completely and moving entirely. Going back and forth for 3 rounds. And you can play around with the plank variation. If you like a high push-up plank, a low plank, single leg, rotated, pick your poison. And in the first group, or your final group, you're going to have a squat hold, a normal even squat stance hold. You can play around with the depth, followed by a mountain climbers. So everything in the pink, you're thinking high effort, high energy, high quantity of movement. And each of the pieces in the green are a nice, strong, stationary hold. All right? So now follow me over to the training space, and I will show you what each of this is gonna look like in action. So in our first strength ladder, we're going to take 2 movements, a Cossack squat, followed by a tempo push-up. Some variations of your Cossack squat are locking in and keeping your feet in the same space, which for this, you're going to find a space wider than your hip distance and somewhere where you can have a strong, firmly planted big toe and pinky toe. As you sink into one hip, you're going to think drive that knee forward and pull this knee backwards. Hands can be out as a counterbalance. Once you find a good depth, you're gonna drive back through this bent leg until you stand. Press the opposite knee forward, pull this knee backwards to find that good hip crease. That's 1 on each side. You're gonna complete 10 per side, thinking how tall and strong can you keep your torso throughout each portion of the movement. Another option for your Cossack squat is staying low as you switch. So staying low as if you're traveling underneath a position, so you're playing with staying in this deeper range of motion. And once you've gotten 10 on each side, finding yourself down to the floor. Now you can play around with some variations of height. Maybe your push-up begins from more of a tabletop, 2 seconds on the descent, 2 seconds on the ascent. And notice how my hips stay a little bit further behind where my torso is. This just allows me to have a strong body posture. So the next place you can progress to is going to a kneeling plank push-up. And from there, progress into a full plank push-up. And once you have your 10 of your push-up variation, you then come back into your Cossack squats. So you can add some challenge to your Cossack squats by holding on to a weight, whether it's in front of you, onto your shoulders. You can play around with going slower as you fall to each side. You can play with moving slowly as you slide to each side. And as you're going through, just keeping a strong breathing intention, strong breathing mechanics. Thinking that your top of the shoulders and the top of the head still remain that tallest point. Now, something else you can add in is if you have a chair handy and you want to play around with some other types of variations, you can play with actually elevating your entire upper body. As my hat's in the way. To just spice up the angles of your push-up. Maybe you need an elevated surface and you still come from kneeling. That's fine. Maybe you want to increase the difficulty and instead you lift your feet up onto a chair for any of your push-ups, and it can be a full decline push-up, or it can be more of a handstand push-up. So you have the options to play around with just some fun, some interesting variations. Now I'd keep taking those two movements, Cossack squats and push-ups, until I complete just one of each exercise. I'll then go take a break, snag a drink, and then when I come back, I'm going to set up for tempo bear squats and paused reverse lunges. So when you set up for your bear squat, you want to first find a good strong tabletop, so spread fingers as if you're going to trace your hand with a pen or a pencil. Load your toes as if you're going from a turtle position, and then press on up into your bear. So it's an active pose to start. Ensure that your head can hang heavy. And what you're going to do is imagine sitting your hips behind your heels. So pressing your forehead towards the floor, pressing your ribs onto your thighs, and then extending as if you're pressing the knees backwards, letting the heels drop towards the floor. Your palms are active, pushing down and gripping down and forward through the floor, whether it's hardwood carpet, maybe it's even turf. Each time you're returning to your bear pose, taking a nice strong inhale. Following through with these bear squats until you get to a total of 10. Taking the slow descent and then a slow rise. And you're going to be pairing that with a pause reverse lunge. So to get set up for a lunge, I like to start from the floor. So starting in your kneeling lunge position or a half lunge. And you play around with your angle. If you prefer to have a wider lunge stance, you like that stretch feeling as you're descending, you can. If you like something a little bit more closed off because you feel stronger in that range of motion, set up there. Again, before we begin, loading your back toes, making sure you can feel the big toe, the pinky toe, and the base of your heel really ground down into the earth. And from there, you're going to take an inhale on the rise. And as you draw down, keeping your chin just behind your waist, own that bottom position for 3 seconds before rising back up. You can take all 10 on one side. So staying stationary with your feet. Or another option would be to take a step back. All on one side. Again, putting all your focus just on one side at a time. That way, right now, my right foot, I'm just focusing on a good grounded space versus if I was switching every single step. Sometimes it's just nice to have that one solid side stationary and still to get a little bit more extracted benefits from the movement. Once I'm set with the 10 on my left, I'll take the 10 pause lunges on my right and then dive back into the bear squats. So from here, taking a set of 9 bear squats, 9 lunges on each side, all the way down until you just complete one of each. Now for part 2 of the training session, this is where we're going to have a mixture of isometric strength and plyometric strength. Our first group, we're going to do a squat hold followed by mountain climbers. So we're going to hold a squat for 30 seconds, follow that with 30 seconds of mountain climbers. Take only about 5 to 10 seconds in between to transition. And once you complete 3 rounds of the squats to the climbers, take a longer break before you dive into the next group, part B. So that way you can kind of recharge and refresh your batteries. So for your squat hold, it can be anywhere from slightly down into your squat. You can play around with going further into your depth. But the biggest thing is going to be checking in that your pinky toes are in contact with the floor. You can take deep, consistent breaths. You're feeling yourself sitting into your hip crease versus out onto your toes. So feeling some weight into your hips, as if you could wiggle your toes if you needed to. And then once you're set with 30 seconds of holding your squat, a quick shakeout before you find yourself down to the floor, a strong, big, deep breath, and then you're gonna go with your mountain climbers, keeping your shins low, your eyes out in front of your fingertips. All right, you want to avoid this positioning. You shouldn't be able to see your toes or your knees. Your knees should be only seen if they drive up past your wrists. You can play around with the tempo, whatever allows you to have the best shape and form. And then after that, 30-second burst. Standing back up. And then locking back into your squat position. Once again, holding strong. Each time you cycle through, focusing on longer breaths. Checking in with the strength in the toes. Can you keep the ribs stacked above your pelvis? And after that, 30 seconds, another shakeout before you arrive down into your mountain climber position. Now, some variations that you can go for are on top of letting the knees drive up. You can go for a little bit of a cross the body, bringing your one knee to the opposite elbow. Just as long as your eyes can still stay out in front of your fingertips. You can even go with wide climbers, bringing your toe to the outside of the wrist. And if mountain climbers kind of don't feel comfortable for your lower back, going for heel lift planks, still slower, still plyometric, is a good option for some more hip extension versus hip flexion. And after those 30 seconds, going into the final round of squat holds and mountain climbers one more time. Part B is going to be the same format. 30 seconds of one, 30 seconds of the other. These two movements being a plank hold. You can hold your 30-second plank from here. From here. You can take alternating taps for 30 seconds. If you wanted to make it more challenging, you can be into more of a Superman plank position, hands beyond the top of your head. And once you're set with your 30 seconds of whichever plank hold fits best for you, you're gonna have a 5-yard shuffle. So if you have a landmark in your house, whether you can put a pillow down, a sandal, a hat, if you have agility cones, yes, it's the formal and official way to do it. But all we're going to do is you're going to stay low, side shuffle until you can tap the cone, same thing to the right. You're gonna piggyback back and forth, left, right, for as many taps as you can in 30 seconds. So staying low. A good check-in is usually 3 to 4 shuffles while you're staying where you can be. Once you're set with your 30 seconds of the shuffle, try to keep the rest 10, 15 seconds tops here. And then locking back into another long, strong plank hold of 30 seconds. And during the isometric hold, you're looking to gain and catch your breath. Following those 30 seconds, I would take another round of the 5-yard shuffles back and forth, and then a third round to round out that group B. The final set of the day is going to be a bridge hold followed by skater lunges. So the bridge hold can be a couple different options. You can take your glute bridge, hips up, feet driving down, back of the shoulders drawing down, feeling not just the cheeks but also the hamstrings be engaged. You can play around with lengthening the back of the legs a little bit to longer and lengthen the lever on the hammies. So just spicing up the glute bridge, playing around with until your legs are almost entirely straight. Another option of your bridge hold would be from your crab position, fingertips forwards or out to the sides. And then you're gonna drive through your heels, lift the chest and the hips towards the ceiling. And locking in here for 30 seconds. Okay, whichever one of those options fit for you, maybe you do a little bit of both. You're then gonna move into skater lunges. So you're going to let yourself move into one side. As you move into this side, this leg is gonna trail behind as a buffer. You can think of it as a balance piece. You can start with small hops, right? And eventually it becomes a little bit more dynamic. And as you get comfortable with the step and being light and thinking there being like a little metronome, you can add a little more distance to your hops. You can even add letting your back leg stay entirely off the ground. And eventually you make the more plyometric, more energy expended. 30 seconds to skaters, 30 seconds to the bridge hold for 2 more rounds to complete 3 rounds of that. And after that long part 1, part 2, you have just completed an extremely successful and highly advantageous bodyweight strength and conditioning workout. Let me know if you have any questions, what you thought of it, if you'd like to see more of things like this. And as always, keep doing what you do to live better every day. Thank you for your time.